Well, that's right. We jumped across the pond. Now we're going into North America. Pretty much hometown for us as it is. And we are going to be looking at some teams. Again, like Dave has said, a very similar day. Every matchup is a 4-1 team going up against a 1-4 team. And while I was kind of thinking... Even this one. I was kind of thinking in Europe that we'd see one team go to their 5-1, one team maybe go 4-2. Didn't end up happening. I believe everyone was 5-1, 5-1, 1-5, 1-5. North America
Those are numbers.
Might end up being the same way as the first matchup we have. It's Nation of Power going up against Team Zenith.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say here.
You ready to delve down into it? Well, Nation of Power has quite a lot, and a player that is notable because it came from Ferocity, jumped onto this team. Poison, who has made quite a name for himself in the past in the Premier League as well.
Poison and Stigma, and that translation from Jay and Tay, and bringing in the power of the squad. I mean, they're really trying to stick to their namesake, which is be a team that dominates not only the PML, takes this top spot, combines all the talents that were available, and then does well at LAN and makes a lot of money. I mean, that's really what they're trying to do here, and they've got guys who have been around enough, guys who have been to LAN, and Poison is probably the most experienced competitor, not only at LAN, but in playing in the PPL for a split and having the ability to see what it's like, see the competition. He's fallen down and fallen, just gone back down. But now he realizes that he's dominating at this level. So the only other level for him is to rise up again. So I think that has really instilled a level of confidence in him that should be untouted. And honestly, incomparable to a lot of the other players he's facing. Many people haven't been through his path and walked where he's walked.
I know a lot of Zenith so far, like, this is going to be like their chance to kind of show off against Nation of Power, right? Yeah. This is your chance to potentially try and take them down. Of course, Poison and Stigma. It makes it very difficult to break them down, but they brought in Ozone, I believe, last week. And Watkins has been a player so far that this entire time has been impressive to me, I guess is the best way to word it. Because
that's a good way.
He was almost always bringing in Tyra, almost always making her look good before she really evolved into the meta. And then has that ability to kind of flex around. Tyra, I want to say, was maybe a little bit of a meme early on for him because it was just like almost every game he was playing Tyra if he could. But having the flexibility to then make plays like that on, say a Zen and dig a little deeper into the champion.
What I like is that when a person runs Tyra that much and it's not there yet, you consider it a meme, right? It's kind of like the first person to do something and they don't get any credit because everyone's like, this is against status quo and we're going to make fun of you because it's not the thing we all know already. Yeah. But then somebody else does it and then it kind of is like, oh, dude, that popped off. Then somebody else does it and it's like clearly a very good strat and then it just becomes accepted. Watkins really was on the beginning. I mean, it may just be because the PML was shown before the PPL, but he was really the first guy who hard committed to Tyra being a part of this meta in a big way. And so you got to give credit where credit is due. He championed this champion, and she is a champion.
Well, the first map we're going to go to is going to be Serpent Beach for the set. And while I don't necessarily think Tyra on this map for Zenith, I do, maybe for someone like Stigma, think more... maybe Kinessa.
Kinessa can
work. Able to come in here.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be up to Zenith. How much homework have they done? Because, if I see a game where Zenith immediately get punished for something like a Kinessa, it's going to be rough. But at the end of the day, with Poison being able to flex onto these blaster characters so well, onto the Bomb King, and especially onto the Eevee, which is going to be the main thing to contest the Kinessa if there is one, and they will have done their homework. They will ban the Kinessa. It's still difficult for them, because they have that backline dive, and they also should be wary that maybe a Strix is in the pocket. We've seen that more and more in every league.
And with the way things have been going, Stigma specifically, I believe, has showcased the ability to transfer that skill onto multiple champions. And that's the thing that I think, again, when you look at a player, especially in the minor league, it is very often that you will see, man, they're really great on that pick. And then if they lose that pick, all of a sudden they're maybe okay, maybe average. But having that ability, having, again, a deeper champion pool to be able to flex around on, makes things way more comfortable. And flexing around is exactly what everyone ends up doing. Ashcon, Barrack, front lines galore. But Bomb King now picked up here for Nation of Power.
Have you ever stared at Khan face.
And
How it looks like he's kind of like, you know, popping up.
he definitely has some Batman eyes going on right
You
now.
know, like a what is it, like a gopher coming out of his shell? He's like,
He ordered a chest plate like 3 sizes too big, so it just comes up to this part. You're not allowed. But even higher, because you only see like part of his eyes.
He could have like a Mr. Incredible chin, where it's this huge chin, but it's like, you know, it's all concealed underneath the armor, and he's really trying to protect it. Doesn't have a big top head.
His face
Yeah.
could be Dredge's weapon. Like it could be all.
That would be a good face reveal. I mean, that would be weird if that was the case, but I'd be open to it.
I mean, who knows?
It makes
who knows
sense.
what's going on
all the
under all
armor
that
would
armor.
make a lot of sense.
I mean, look, we got the street style Ash, her being able to like rock the leather jacket and like showcase what she looks like without the armor.
Yeah.
One day we'll get to see Khan without.
I would
the
love that. That'd be really, really cool.
This is a hot
I think
team.
they keep doing a great job on the
like a
skins, man.
normal
It's a lot of
team,
fun
but
seeing
with
these
me.
champions
I like the
reimagined.
idea that maybe they do the same thing. They give him a leather jacket, like make him like
And he
biker,
still has
but he
the-
has the helmet on still. Like they just
That could be
leave
the
helmet.
meme, right? He just always has his helmet on. It's like, what's underneath?
My journey leads
Well,
me
hey,
to
it's
battle.
Ash, Bomb King, Damba,
So be it.
Cassie, Nando there for our Nation of Power, Khan, Barrett, Grover, Sha Lin, and Leon. So I'm actually going to point out the one that seems a little more out of the ordinary. How do you feel about Sha Lin on Serpent Beach?
I like Shaolin on Serpent Beach. He's actually really not out of the ordinary for this map. Back in the day, he used to be extremely viable, and he would basically be able to stun you cross map instantly into Planet. That's what forced Stun and Planet to get nerfed. But, you know, we haven't seen it in a long time. Let's put it that way.
Well, we're going to have to see if it can do the work that it needs to be done. We're going to go to Dave and Nick to take us through Serpent Beach.
Thank you, Gore. Thank you, Evan. Our long trip across the Atlantic is over, and Nick and I have landed down here in the caster room. Some fun games to look forward to here today. Ozone on the Shaolin is where the desk was looking towards the end of their breakdown there, Nick. How do you feel about the Shaolin?
The Brozone Shaolin.
Brozone.
I got a lot of respect for Ozone, certainly, and I think Shaolin is still a little bit on the fringe for me. A lot of people have definitely tried to play him at the Premier League level, and he's had his ups and his downs so far. I'm seeing a lot of what he does, shred through these shields pretty effectively, but unfortunately, can't have too many high levels of record online just yet. These frontliners are going to have their way, and now Shaolin just has to kind of give up his lines of sight.
As such, Nation of Power grabbed themselves first blood and grabbed themselves that high ground. Zenith were on the point to start things off, but Nation of Power with a pretty good offensive push there gets Team Zenith pushed back. Now it's up to P-Riz on this Leon, trying to find some damage. Priz doing the best that he can. He's going to get himself out and safely, but you got to be careful here if you're on Zenith. Nation of Power have pretty firmly controlled that high ground there. So that's really what your eyes are on to retake here.
Now, Scout's probably only going to hard counter Heat Haze maybe once or twice this game. I don't know how much of an effort Stigma is going to make for it, but he has run Impulse, and Impulse isn't something that is really taken much nowadays. It's all about the big game. So Stigma is looking now, we know, to kill these squishier backlines, and Grover, he's going to be able to burst these characters much more effectively. And damage is still damage. You can still dump it onto the tanks. Because, when you're looking at a low HP tank like Barrack, you're going to be able to blow him up that much easier. But look at that. 75% of their health just gone in a burst combination. That's what's going to make it so difficult for Shaolin and Leon to do what they want to do.
Ooh, that 1-2 punch isn't very good when you're back at base. Stigma's going to be the first to fall. The Enlightenment's going to find another. Everyone on Team Zenith getting involved here. That's 4 down now. 4 separate killers. Watkins, the only one doubling up there. And Team Zenith come from behind on the point to find themselves a win here. It's 1-0 so far. Nation of Power on the back foot.
Great stuff there from Zenith. Very explosive take back. Long point fight as well. We're almost at the 3-minute mark. A lot of those ultimates have been used at least once on both sides. So Nation of Power get the worst end of that trade. And that's honestly the most interesting first-round point fights to me are the more extended ones that do see ultimates being used here. And we do expect this to be our most contested set of the day, given just like all the seedings, all the changes that North America has gone through recently as well. You could be seeing any one of these 3 teams, and that's why North America is going to be more fun to watch, because in Europe it's a little bit settled in top 2, I think, at this point, but I think there is still some wiggle room and some potential for Team Zenith to make their way out of the top 2 spots here in North America.
Yeah, at this point you have some Frankenstein teams that are made up of players from a bunch of other teams. Zenith has stayed consistent in a couple of their players, in Indy and Watkins. standing the test of time over the past few weeks. That's a nice Dread Serpent's gonna find Priz. So Team Zenith on the back foot to start off this fight. The Dome Shield is just getting eaten up there by Jay. Well played there, not to be scared of that Dome Shield. Just gonna eat up all the flames. But still, Team Zenith on the front foot here. The Ashe is gonna go down as well. Be careful, Ozone. If you die here, that'll stall out your push. The ultimates are available for them. Here comes the Heat Haze for him. He's going to be able to stealth himself up between his shots here. The Grumpy Bomb's going to come out to try to counter that out a little bit. And Nick, it does a good job, but here comes the King Bomb.
There it is indeed. It's going to be good for a stun onto 2, but only the kill onto 1 so far. Ozone barks back a little bit with the bow. Into the planet he will go. 43 on the clock. Diving in on this Leon, but met with an enlightenment. Nowhere to run from that.
A little too deep there. Priz with a couple, Jay and Stigma answering back on the opposite side, but the kills are starting to come up blue here. Watkins is doing his best to stall things out, but the longer this fight goes on, Nation of Power are going to have the advantage. They have the respawns coming out. They're closer, but once the Zenith roster gets back and able to contest, they're going to be on the front foot yet again. 15 seconds left, so it's not like overtime was ticking away. They have a moment to step back and heal up. But this next team fight is probably going to decide which way this goes.
5 seconds on the clock now. Scout's ready to go, but that's really inconsequential. Priz finds the first. Stigma sneaks up on Ozone. Stigma's in the back line right now, just ripping everybody to pieces. The flank pays off in a big way. Cassie basically wins the fight for her squad. Wow, Whirlwind's still going to come out here. They think they still got a chance, and I don't agree.
Yeah, now when Stigma on the Cassie flank is finding 3 in this fight.
3v5, Dave.
Make that 4.
It's
finally going down. But wow, yeah, so the Whirlwind comes out. I mean, it tops them off for a moment, but they were fighting 3v5, as you said, so not the most value coming out from that Whirlwind. I mean, if you think you have a chance, I guess I'd rather you use it and not need it than have it and not use it when you did need it. It's kind of a backwards way of looking at it, I think, but he saw an opening, he used it, didn't work out that time. Up to 11%, so that'll be around towards the butt end of this first team fight here. Looking at the opposite side, you got 3 ultimates.
Big ones, too.
Jay almost having his up as well. The Overpower and the Enlightenment, the only 2 ready as of the start of this round. The Heat Haze will be ready for Ozone as well. And what we saw last time was Nation of Power really pushing Zenith off this high ground, and that really tilted things.
That's what's tough, man. You got to stand still for Planet against Bomb King and Impulse Cassie. Just absolutely obliterated. You could see Ozone kind of saw it coming, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he was basically full health, and he just got turned into little gold dust. Dust in the wind here from Poison.
I don't feel so good. That kind of dust. Down comes the banner from Ashe. Ozone is going to stay far away from that one. He's kind of off on his own there, fighting against the rest of Zenith. Here comes the Heat Haze for him, but his health bar is kind of low. Whoa, that's a nice shoulder bash from Tay. It's going to drop Ozone.
Out of the
and
Heat Haze.
He did use his ultimate just before that, and as such, Nation of Power find themselves point number 2.
I think Stigma held his Scout for the Heat Haze as well. As soon as he heard the audio cue, he just popped it. Very visible to everyone on the team.
Yep, he did. Yep.
He didn't even stop. That's the thing. Most of the time with shoulder bash, you stop, but because he was flying mid-air, it took the shoulder bash damage, but the mid-air momentum just carried that Ashe. Almost like she just tripped over Shaolin and killed him in the process. But when you're wearing a big heavy suit of armor, it's the way of the road.
Just see it through.
Yeah.
Just see it through, and he did. He found the kill through the Heat Haze. That's going to be on cooldown, up to a quarter of the way there for Ozone. So relatively quickly charging in the grand scheme of things. Priz is going to go toe-to-toe here with Poison, but he gets the butt end of that one. Poison not missing many bombs. That's the benefit of the AoE damage there, is you don't necessarily have to hit all of them dead on to do all of your damage. Jay's going to find one as well, so Nation of Power starting off this offensive push in really great fashion. They have about a minute and a half left. Zenith need to find their defense here. Watkins on this con is going to try to do just that. Not playing his traditional Tyra. Playing the con this game. The Whirlwind is going to come out, the Planted as well, but Ozone's going to go down through it. And Nick, you touched on that. You go Planted against Bomb King. That's a pretty easy target.
I think it's really got to be just against these tanks at this point. I think you can use Planet to shield shred some of the shields, but giving up your stun by running Explosive Arrow makes it very tough to know, like, this is the time when I go into Planet. Normally Planet is just a follow-up to your stun, the combo, the yin to your yang, and the white to your right, but when you forego it with this more poke-style legendary right there, that's what you got to be aware of. You're doing more damage on these autos. You're getting so many more impale arrows off, but standing still is not something you want to do in this level of the game.
Got to be a little more careful when you plant yourself down to do the damage. He is still chunking poison for about half of his health on every single one of those arrows. Which is something you got to be careful of. So, I mean, he saw the opportunity to shoot 3 of them really quickly. Few of them into Poison. Didn't work out that time. Poison's playing very well here on this Bomb King. He might have bit off more than he can chew there. Ozone's going to be the one to actually clean that one up. Stigma finds one as well. This is the team fight that could determine this payload push with only 8 seconds left. Both teams have lost one. Nation of Power, though, they have 5 ultimates.
No, I'm here, Stigma said, as bullets rained in through the doorway.
The American streaks.
Overtime does get started here. But no high ground control right now from Nation of Power, so it's going to be difficult, I think, for them to work against Ozone, who's relatively uncontested up here. He's going to be able to find good damage and plow through these shields very, very quickly. Fear comes out, but still, high ground control now turning over to Nation of Power.
Nation of Power have found 3, make it 4. 2 from Stigma, 1 from Jay, or 2 from Poison, excuse me, 1 from Stigma and Jay. That's going to spell a 3-1 and a successful push, and all they had to spend there was the Dread Serpent. On the opposite side, the Enlightenment came out. The Dome Shield wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready. No, no, it's Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart? Okay. I just watched his new special last night. Pretty good.
Is it? Oh, that shoulder bash.
Like it, yeah. Just clipped him midair. Tripped over the poor Shaolin. 5-9 for Ozone. Top deaths in the game, but again, when you have to stand still to do your highest DPS move, can be tough. Still definitely keeping up with the damage charts. So is Watkins, though. Shoutouts to the Tyra man, forced to play Khan. He's making his presence felt here. 5-4. 0-6 for the healer as well. So that's how you know Nation of Power getting in there, right? Jay and they are staying aggressive with these 2 tanks, and they're having, you know, Poison and Stigma follow it up a lot of times. You've got the Impulse Cassie. She's more likely to move aggressively and flank and look for, you know, assassinations than she is to just sit in the back line. But that time Tay was alone, and it did not pay off for him.
And Poison here is able to get off the King Bomb damage, get off the stun before he gets tossed off. He's gonna find the Fernando. Off you go. But down goes Watkins on the back end. Stigma's going to clean that one up. Now it's down to Jostles and the rest of Team Zenith to try to stabilize this one. Divine's going to get him out, but he's going to get stunned up in the meantime. I think he caught the back end of the Ashe ultimate on his way out.
Yeah.
And actually ended up getting stunned at the end of his Vine there. So Tay, pretty well timed there on the Ashe ultimate. Nation of Power are the ones on the point at the moment, but neither team really coming out on top there. The Dome Shield is the only ultimate available, and the high ground is still under contention.
Definitely need to get this. Knocking Poison to the low ground could be a big move there, but Ozone gets taken out. 2 quick shots from Tay. Poison gets back up to where he wanted to be, and it's all basically null and void.
Yep, and here's the shoulder bash. Going to try to find some Poison up top there on the Bomb King. Is going to try to find some damage. Instead, it's Nini who's going to open this one up. The 1-2, not missing any shots is Priz. He's not going to get a kill, but he's going to get most of the damage. There's his kill. Watkins with 2 as well. Team Zenith firmly in control, and they find themselves point number 2. And now Nation of Power on the back end.
I mean, listen, bro, that was the call. They were diving Priz. You could see Ashe making the big rotation. Another overpower will come off. Easy kill for the boys. Priz just mechanically won that fight for his squad. Everyone dove him, but he did not give him mention. He did it without his ultimate, too. So very impressive little sequence there to stay alive.
The Enlightenment still able to be used in this next fight. Poison's getting aggressive. Now this is where the long defensive stand comes in. 2 minutes left. Hasn't been moved much out at all. Tay is going to find one here for Nation of Power, so the Zenith push is going to stall out for just a moment. They're going to step back, regroup themselves, and get back into it. But this is where it gets potentially dangerous for Team Zenith. If Nation of Power is able to stagger some of these kills and then start the full court press, as we say, essentially in their base.
34 now to find it. If they can break said press, Stigma finds something over the top there to finish off Ozone. Goes back to base yet again. struggling to find a way to stay alive here and stay effective, especially with the way Nation of Power have drafted. They move around the map very effectively, they can get assassinations very effectively. If it wasn't for that Priz turnaround, this would be probably would have been probably game over for Nation of Power.
Definitely looked that way. And I think something interesting, Nick, that we've seen, I mean, it's pretty much Serpent Beach anyway, but the battle for the high ground has actually been pretty contested so far in this map. We saw Nation of Power claim it very early on when it was still 0-0, and then Zenith bounced back and they reclaimed the high ground. It's not so much been that sort of half of one team up on the high ground over here, half of the team on the high ground over here. It's kind of almost been both teams 100% fighting for the high ground, and it's sort of been all or nothing on either side. It's
because it is very all in, right? Bomb King and Grover are the only two characters that can even get up there.
Right,
so
that's true.
It's kind of tough for them to do it anyway, but the old-fashioned way where you got to go take these back steps, you got to work your way up slowly to be able to get onto the high ground, and it takes a little bit deeper of an offense. You have to get the payload push kind of almost up around this corner before the defense is going to want to sort of seed that back staircase, and even then, it's not something that you're really looking to do, but we've seen it, you're right, be super critical. First round, Stigma on defense was able to kind of sneak that flank back there and take out a couple people. Ozone into Planet, but every time he's gone into Planet, I don't think he's come out the other side.
Planets have not really been in the best spot as of yet. A couple kills are going to spell a defensive stand here for Nation of Power, so they have the 3-2 lead and the 5 strong streaks going into this potentially final point fight for them. Finding lots of pressure. Watkins as well on the side of Zenith. I mean, we've seen him on the Tyra and the damage dealers here. Now they bring in Ozone, a guy who's playing Shaolin in this game. So Watkins transferring over. I mean, still have the hit scan, the con. I mean, it's not too much of a far cry from the kid of Tyra, but not playing the champion that we...
I guess you're right.
I mean, you point and click and you shoot a whole lot.
Move around slowly with a lot of HP and a hit scan gun. 30 bullets as well. I mean, not too unfamiliar.
They're the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Spot the difference.
Spot the difference.
Tyra's been hitting the gym.
It's not the screaming eagles on the shoulder, the flares coming off of the party hat there, but... It's interesting. Zenith kind of okay to concede the high ground, at least initially here. Here's going to be the push from them. But they allowed Tay and the Ash and Stigma as well to really get to the edge, really get to their entrance to this high ground. And in the meantime, Nation of Power are on the point with 54%. Some ultimates now starting to get popped. The Whirlwind's going to top off Team Zenith. Priz looking to find some of that healing for himself as well. But we see it here again, Nick. Nation of Power are the ones on the high ground.
Slowly but surely, big fear as well to make sure Ozone can't get anything done. He's got to be on full tilt nearly at this point. I mean, he just has not been able to get his foot down or a foothold in any of these situations. Nice ultimate from Ash here to keep Tay alive and keep control of the enemy high ground.
Yeah, and props to these frontliners here. Here comes the overpower. He's going to hold up Tay. Oh, but he hits the wall there. Doesn't end up going off the map. So overpower not finding the impact that they're looking for. Overtime's ticking away here in favor of Nation of Power. Zenith are the ones who are on the point at the moment. No fast cap enabled just yet. Nation of Power have plenty of time here. 4 streaks coming out. Poison finding a couple kills. Nick, the kills are going back and forth right now, and Nation of Power are looking to take it.
It's almost a fear ready to go again, but these kills are basically wrapped up. As soon as Tay completes this wrap, it's going to be all she wrote. Nation of Power are going to go ahead and take game number 1. Really good play, I think, from everyone. The Shaolin just fell flat. I mean, honestly, I think it's 14 or 15 deaths by the end of it all, 6 or 7 kills. Just not the performance you need. We don't talk too much. Like I said, it's not the hardest counter in the world, but there was that moment of being spotted out by the scout. It's not something Stigma. He does it when it's convenient, but he's not like, oh, this is the only thing I'm worried about all game long. This is my hard counter. I think Stigma switching to Impulse was honestly the bigger story about being able to assassinate Leon and Shaolin.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the Shaolin falling maybe a little flat here on Serpent Beach. Nation of Power take game number 1. Let's send it back to Evan and Gore on the desk to break it down.
Ozone just completely locked down for a majority of that last fight. Like, just wasn't able to get anything done, much like they were saying.
You hear this like Mortal Kombat music going on?
This is, you know, pump for battle.
Pump for battle.
I guess.
No, you're right.
It's like locker room.
Yeah.
No, it's really not.
No, it's really more of the first thing that I said.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But you know what? You were also right.
And that's why you're in the second chair.
No, but you were also right that this Shaolin couldn't get enough done. But it had its moments. 6 and 15, you know, that's really where the key, I think, is the 15 and less about the 6, because if you look at the kills, he's rivaling a couple of things that, you know, went down for some of the aggressive front lines. But as far as the hard carry role, his KD was just really tough, Corin. I think the matchups here just favor Nation of Power so heavily. And let's be honest, this is a team that became an all-star roster because they needed to win everything. They can't drop points to Team Zenith. Every map is a potential tiebreaker that they're giving in somebody else's favor.
And it's also one of those things that, very specifically to point out with Zenith, Mage Monkey and Kerfluffle, their normal 2 front lines that would be here, are not there. Priz is playing and actually had a very highlight moment during that last game, but being able to come into this and have 2 members that you're not used to playing, it's a tall order. In fact, to be able to, I want to say, maybe even perform better than you would have had you had your normal roster is pretty surprising from them.
I've got some info on that. Apparently, Kerfluffle is leaving this team, as well as Alex from the side of Bork. Bork gonna have a new roster apparently today. Alex Nambi or Toa not gonna be there anymore, and they seem like they might be trying to do their own thing together so far. Word on the street. We'll see if that actually ends up happening, but that's one of the reasons why he's not here today.
Just cross him off.
Cross him off the list.
Mage Monkey is not leaving the team. He just happens to be on vacation based on what I saw in a tweet from Ozone saying they were actually looking for a sub, I think, to play just scrimming for the next couple of weeks because they need the practice still. And speaking of the practice that you might need, going to Shattered Desert, not a map people get too often. In fact, I think we've seen it banned a couple times today and kind of ignored over the last week. Like that first week, maybe 2 weeks that it was available, people picking it nonstop. Now, it's slowed down pretty heavily.
But I love watching it. And now that we saw it a lot, now that we haven't seen it for a while, I'm really excited to watch it again because there was this kind of idea that there was a meta of rotation happening on this map, almost that the counterclockwise movement is what you need to do to keep ahead of the team and take advantage of some of these flank potential routes that could collapse 5 members onto a backline if they're not careful and keeping up with the pace. We've seen Grover's work pretty well here because of the AoE. We've also seen a lot of Genos' work because of the added damage and the flexibility and just the movement that he provides also. One of the things I'll be looking for is the pip. The pip, I think, is just super strong. NA teams need to get that in their back pocket as soon as possible.
And that's been the thing. I mean, that was the topic of conversation today. The PPL was the topic of conversation, I think, yesterday. I think it still bears worth mentioning throughout the day. I mean, there's a reason it was banned for most of the first set. There's a reason Simsalou went back to it as much as possible in the last set. It's so versatile.
So versatile.
And on this map specifically, there's so many bumps, hills, and weird pathings.
Yep.
I actually think Pip could pay off incredibly well, especially dancing around the statues on the point.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic, and I think that if somebody's going to pull out the Pip, it is going to be Poison for this team. The Cassie gives a lot of flexibility to this roster. She's just one of the best characters design-wise, I think, to fill the role of the starting character. She could do it all. She's so flexible. She does great damage, and she could fit in any lineup. And so that's why with the Ashe, the Cassie, and the Barrack, you don't really know where Nation of Power are going. So you have to take a couple of gambles here, maybe save a damage pick at the end so they don't get caught off guard.
I mean, so far, so good. I actually really like, I mean, again, going back to the last game, Priz, someone who was listed, I think, as a sub for a couple of weeks now, but being able to come in and play the Leon at that level, whether it's going to be Priz or Ozone, whoever gets it, it's going to be a very solid fit for them. They get the Inara, the Khan, presumably going to Watkins, as I'm going to guess bringing in new people. They've had to do the same thing so many of our Premier League teams have had to do, where it's just, sorry, man, you're not DPS anymore. You're off tank. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Give your king a
have to learn how to play a completely different role now, but all right.
Right. No, I mean, I think that this is an interesting one because you could see the BK where maybe you would have found a Pip come through, but this is it's just a lot more tried and true, and it's less of a reach. So if you're already in the lead, keep things simple. Plus, there's a ton of potential to take 1v1s against pretty much any of these champions here. The Shaolin rounding out for Ozone. I like him on this map too. I keep trying it. I don't know. It might not have been the Shaolin. It might just have been a little bit more about Nation of Power.
I think that's honestly what it came down to. Like you said, it wasn't the 6 that you really need to look at. It's the 15. Can he die a little less this game? Ozone looks pretty solid on it. And this map might actually pay a little bit more dividends for this Shaolin. But Nation of Power up 1. We're going to Shattered Desert. So we're going to give it over to Dave and Nick.
Give it over to us. Shattered Desert is where we are headed. Some interesting team comps coming out here. We haven't seen Shattered Desert a whole lot, Nick. We've seen kind of the roundabout play style that the map tends to lean to.
Yeah, I like this map.
Unfortunately not included are the buffs and the cooldowns and the high jumps and all that sort of fun stuff that you get.
No, it would have been a good look though, wouldn't it have?
I think it would have been a great look. Tay making his way back onto the Ash here. Poison as well. On the Bomb King, huge impact in the last game for Nation of Power. Businessy suit Bomb King here coming out. The Genos as well. I know the Genos Bomb King stack is to be feared.
Definitely is, especially on a map like this where the cover is not super covered either. You can really kind of like get around that type of stuff. And, and when you're looking at it, sometimes you just got to know that it's gonna be Dave.
Oh no, I don't have the dance ready.
I was trying to bait you into your boy band.
It's gonna be me.
It's gonna be Dave. It works so well.
Right.
I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday.
Unfortunately, no foot cam for Nick because he was down here really joshing and jiving on the feet. So.
Damn. Well, way of the road.
That is the way of the road. The Ash. Looking really great back there. That's what we were really commentating off the bat here. Was I was
trying to do it off of the reflection in the TV, which was
I guess you can kind of see it.
A little bit difficult. We are kind of waiting to get back in the game here, guys. Talking a little bit about that King. Yeah, it's a very open map. I think there's not a ton to hide all the way around. A couple of line of sight breaks to play, but it's still a new enough map to where I don't think the standard approach to how we get going and around, like Serpent Beach, right? It was kind of the same clash behind the waterfall almost every single start of the round. That hasn't quite been fully fleshed out for Warder's Gate yet, or excuse me, for Shattered Desert yet. So that's really, I think, what leads to these sort of chaotic first team fights.
Poison, though, he making his presence felt nice. A couple doinks there onto the head of Priz is going to spell a deadly on to start off this game. 36% now and climbing for Nation of Power. And this is something we actually have seen on Shattered Desert, where if one team just starts getting, I guess it's technically any map, but on Shattered Desert, on one hand, it's tough to push in because of all the sight lines that you can see, but on the opposite end, it's hard to push out because look at this. I mean, Nation of Power essentially in one long line, looking at each way that you could come out and just a couple kills. Point number one.
I like that little roost that Cassie has found. It's fun to learn little subtle nuances of every single map, I think. I mean, just earlier today, we learned about this kind of cool little angle on Serpent Beach that I had never really seen before. Up on the high ground, there's like a crack in the wall that Ash started to shoot through. There's one of those on Splitstone Quarry, like on the enemy team's ramp, or I guess any of the team's ramp. There's like a little hole in the wall you can throw Victor grenades through, things like that. So very cool to watch these players figure out the map, and little moments like that can certainly give you the edge. If you can sneak a fire spit or a grenade through somewhere, any type of line of sight is certainly useful.
Yeah, and I like this map. It's fun, not only to watch people figure it out, but just to watch it get played as well, because there's essentially 3 long rows that kind of go into the contest here. Dread Serpent's going to fear out Poison. He's going to Poppy Bomb himself, unfortunately into an almost certain demise anyway, but the kills are going in favor of Nation of Power here. Stigma, the driving force for the blue side, is going to get a couple kills for himself. He's going to set up Jay for a third in this fight. Now the respawns are coming out on the side of Zenith, and they stagger these enough, this could go through.
Surprised that they were able to take that Inara down as quick as they were. And at least from the first round, you would imagine that Nation of Power selected Shattered Desert, because Zenith definitely put up a better fight on Serpent Beach. 3-1 though, a pretty quick round overall, only 7 kills. Decided the round, and losing just 1 first blood, I think that caused Zenith to back off. And then from there, they looked a little bit lost. I think when you're looking at things like Ash, when you're looking at stuff like Barrack, Bomb King, things that can peek around the corner safely or just poke around the corner altogether in the case of Ash and Bomb King, that's what gave them the edge down the stretch there, is that they were just really kind of safe poking out.
They were, and Stigma took full advantage of that. Top damage in the game up to this point, and 5 ultimates available for Nation of Power. Some COT 2s online, as well as a Wrecker for Stigma. Still chilling on level 1 items except for Rejuvenate, this Team Zenith, so this initial engagement should be in favor of Nation of Power, ultimates and item-wise. And you see the banner come down. It's going to get some stuns, not going to get any kills just yet, but Priz is going to end up dropping, but so is Stigma. Be careful. This is a 1-for-1 here. In the heat haze is Ozone. The cooldown goes back to 30. Tay finds one as well. And kills are going red and blue right now, Nick.
There it is. Tay making sure. I mean, Tay kind of honestly deciding this this fight so far. Gets to the back line, drops the big stun, gets 2 more on top of that. So he's not only setting up his team, but he's making sure that he confirms these kills. Overpower is going to be good.
There's no damage, though. He's going to be able to heave him off.
Oh, literally no damage.
No damage, and he's able to drop himself back onto the map. He hits an edge there, I guess, on his way out. Finally, Tay's going to drop anyway. The Dome Shield's going to come out, buy some space here for Nation of Power. Stunned up is Watkins. He's going to eat a few bombs as well. Stigma's going to drop, and Nara on the backside of this fight, and this is the guy you have to be wary of, because in the last one he ran rampant, and he's doing so again here. Poison with 1, Stigma with 1. Jay make it 3 for Nation of Power. Kills and points here. And now the offensive push begins yet again, but they didn't have too much trouble with it last time, Nick.
Not at all, and it doesn't appear that that train is going to be slowing down or reaching the station anytime soon. 2:15 of the 2:30 still to go, and they're already up about a quarter of the distance. This is not a very ideal base to defend from. You look at like things like Stone Keep. You've got all kinds of high ground. You're very close to the capture point as well. The spawn doors are actually pretty far away, further than the, almost reminiscent of like a fish market or a timber mill distance away from the actual conversion point here. And there's not a lot of great high ground to work with.
Ooh, that's a good Dread Serpent. Coming down from the high ground is Poison, unfortunately, into his death. The Assert Dominance as well is going to drop from Tay here. It's going to get tossed out by the Commander's grab. He's going to be alive for the moment, though. Both characters are very low. Khan is low on the backside as well. Tay is going to be able to shoulder bash himself out to life. And Stigma finds Priz again. That's been kind of the matchup we've had our eyes on. The Heat Haste. He's going to get Void Gripped up. He's going to be able to get out of it, though, at the moment. So he stays alive, and the offensive push is stalled out here for Nation of Power. Down goes Tay as well. And that's an overpower spent on the side of Zenith.
Yeah, I was just going to try to get in there, but definitely tough stuff there. 2 kills landing the way of the offense. 1 minute remains on the clock. Stigma pushing the payload now, doing all the jobs here, getting down in the dirt. Scout's ready to go. Ooh. Explosion onto Leon there. She narrowly makes it out, but it will cost Stigma his life.
She had entirely an invisible health bar up there on the top of the screen, so a bit unlucky or lucky depending on how you want to look at it. Priz keeping himself alive. 2,000 health, was down to I think probably double digits in that case. Now he's going to turn his sights onto Jay. Poison lurking down below, trying to find some damage. Yeah, I mean on the Leon, Priz has been on all day. He's found the damage, he's found the shots. Unfortunately not able to find the defense just yet. And there yet again, Priz not missing. That's a 1-2-3 onto Poison. Tay on the backside is going to clean up Watkins, but here comes through time and space, and it's
Priz. Good. I thought he would have slid out of that one there. That's a free pick for T-Max. 6 seconds on the clock. Genos doing his best to keep this barrack up and healthy. Stun lands from Maldamba or something, I imagine. The fear comes out as well, but it's too late. The kill has already fallen. Ozone is already dead. Watkins is going to do his best to flip this barrack and kill him, but the King Bomb rolls right through him, and no contest from Team Zenith on Shattered Desert.
Damba is going to be the last to fall. Oof. Poison's going to find 2 in that last fight. Nation of Power going to find win number 2 here on the day on Shattered Desert, and that one was much more convincing than map number 1 was. Zenith were able to answer back a little bit in map number 1, but Nation of Power just rolling here on map number 2.
Tough stuff. It clearly looks like one team had that map figured out, and one team did not.
One team did not. Nation of Power do have it figured out, though. They're up 2-0. Back to Evan and Gore on the desk to talk about it.
Well, Nation of Power find themselves yet another win, and I mean, just to echo the exact same sentiment, Serpent Beach looked pretty solid from Zenith. Definitely a lot more of a fighting match between the two.
Yeah.
That one
didn't even look close.
Nation of Power the entire way.
Didn't even look close, and this is what you expect. And I would expect Game 3 to look, it could go either way, but I would expect it to look more of the same. Especially when the team is trying to get together and figure out how they blend. Shattered Desert's probably not the map that I don't know. I would either expect you to go to
practice anyway,
because I'm assuming this was their map pick. So I wouldn't have expected them to go here, but let alone to have that and then to lose this hard. Something's, like I've said this a lot lately, something's rotten in the state of Denmark. I don't understand how you can opt into this and then have. Well, if it's, see, I don't understand why. This is Nation of Power's map pick, but I don't understand why they're picking second as the higher seed in here, unless we're just trading off first picks in sets, because there's no way they're the lower seed, unless they gave up first map pick. So we don't know the behind the scenes, but it's strange that this is Nation of Power's map, but they certainly played like it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Dominating performance, you can see Poison. And I feel like this is one of those games where between Poison and Sigma, like they get a lot of highlights because they were so controlling, right? They get that big streak. I actually want to say more shout-outs to T-Mac, honestly, just being on such a large streak as a support. Not as difficult considering now supports get eliminations for anyone that you're healing if they get killed, but still really nice to see because he's not dying that entire time. His presence being just ever felt is giving a boost to the Bomb King damage, it's giving a boost to the Cassie damage, and it's keeping everyone topped off. So 4-0 there for Nation of Power. And honestly, this is where I think things get a little more kind of murky for Zenith. This is where they need to figure out what map can we go to. If they chose Serpent Beach, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe something like a Jag Falls, something kind of in that vein to try and drive yourself somewhere comfortable.
Gore. Ice Mines. Ice Mines.
Teams got to get out of this habit.
They got to get out of the habit. And I think it's you know, it's not a good habit against a team that's clearly dominating. You know, against and you're already in the middle of the set when you could choose this map here. We saw Renegades do it week 1, week 2, failed week 3 miserably against a good enough opponent, right?
Yeah.
And that was the NIP that was just not going to get beaten by anybody, or maybe it was the Virtus Pro. I'm trying to remember. I actually think
both.
I think it might have been both. Yeah. So the Ice Mines then doesn't work 2 times in a row. So this is one where if you have some back and forth, then I think that this is a map you can really get some ground on. But when a team seems to know what they're doing at this level, this should be a test for Nation of Power to prove whether they're really able to take this one. But I think if they are playing at this caliber, they should have this one in the bag.
The one critique I do want to give Zenith that's caught my eye, and I feel like is going to catch my eye again this time, they seem to be relying very heavily on certain comfort picks. I've seen Leon and Shaolin twice in a row, and I
that's true.
kind of expect to see Leon Shaolin here. Like, I can't think of a reason to really not go Leon, but this is another map where Shaolin is seen like where he's not going to be the best, but he's going to be good, and you can kind of pick him up. I feel like I've seen Ozone a lot in the past play something like Cassie, like the Shaolin, and it kind of feels like this is okay, well, let's just be comfortable. Let's play what we know how to play.
Right.
I'm actually excited for Zenith because, again, this is week 6. Next week's a bye week for the minor league. I want to know what they're going to be like 2 weeks from now, right? Because right now, it does still feel like that the unfortunate circumstances that they have been, they're a fresh team, essentially. They have gotten, from the beginning of this the split to now, essentially 4 new members.
One of the reasons as well, I think, because you could say the same thing about Nation of Power.
True.
Adding Tay, J, you see Stigma Poison, you have Team Mac holding it down. And this is a roster that maybe, even though some have been there, very much 4 new groups of players playing together consistently here in the front line and in the DPS package. But what's so good about Poison and Stigma, I almost said Pigma and Stoizen, which would have been maybe the Russian version of their pair, if you had like a weird twist to us. I think at this point, they know so well about how they play, but they also augment each other's and complement each other's champion pool. Bomb King, and then you can go for a Leon. The Shaolin-Leon overlap means that there's not enough AoE, and now you're giving up something that we all know is a big problem, which is the Kinessa, 2 Stigma, the Bomb King, 2 Poison, and I don't know if there's going to be a way for Zenith to handle this.
I'm having so many conflicting thoughts right now. First off, I'm going to say I love Zenith's lineup. Barrick, Genos, Nara, Tyra, Cassie. I think that's solid for this map. I love Khan, I love Nando, I love Bomb King, I love Damba, and I love Kinessa. But I don't love Kinessa on Ice Mines. I'm curious to see how it works. The only thing that's stopping me from going against Nation of Power, Stigma runs Kinessa on Bright March.
Listen,
so
on the push, this is going to be a great champion on the push. It's just the point. Can he make it work?
And that's going to be the question. He's made it work on Bright Marsh. I can't bet against him making it work on Ice Mines. Let's see how Stigma can handle this Kinessa here as we go into Ice Mines.
I was going to say, luckily Gore kind of cleaned up his answer there, because I was going to say, yeah, Kinessa's not on Ice Mines, and I remember the last time he said that was, oh, it's Kinessa on Bright Marsh, and Stigma was the one who made us swallow our words. So, still, yes, sort of an out of the ordinary pick here on Ice Mines, but Stigma's shown that he can make it work sort of anywhere. And Nick, I think Evan touched on it. He said, all right, well, it works well on the defense. How do you see it working here for the point fight?
I think this Tyra marks it up, and then she's just very aware. Everyone's very aware of where Stigma's position. And then Ozone, going Impulse this game, needs to find himself in a position to be able to just assassinate her. Shot, blast shot, and a shot will do it if she's marked up and ready for the slaughter. So far, hasn't been able to find much damage, really just kind of poking out that barrack once.
No, and I think even without the Hunter's Mark, you can assume that on the point fight, Stigma's going to be in this bridge zone. It's the only place that really makes sense. He's still able to find some damage, nearly dropping Priz, and he does anyway. Jay sniping that one out a bit, and here comes Stigma. You know, they know where he is, but you can only do so much when he's out in the back, and the rest of the team, the rest of Nation of Power, is getting up in your face, and on the back end of just a couple kills, Nation of Power have now rotated and taken over the point.
Making sure that he maintains that buff. I believe it's 7 seconds after you hit a fully charged shot. Your next fully charged shot will do a boatload more damage. You can see every time he's got those like orange comic booky kapow looking numbers, that's when his damage buff is activated, and he has hit another fully charged shot. Pyra peeking up just to kind of give him a look there. The quick 1-2 punch.
That's a 1-2.
And that'll do it. Nation of Power go on the go-ahead. But this looks exactly like the Renegades, Ninjas, and Pajamas Ice Mines games at the start.
Right.
Team Zenith should have known what their problem was going to be before they loaded into the game. But it's all about how do they solve that problem. We saw Diggy Dog getting so hyper-aggressive on this barrack to go take control of the enemy high ground, and I think Zenith is going to have to do something similar.
No, I agree. And Evan's kind of question mark on the desk, and I agree with him, is, well, you know, on the push it's going to be great, but how's it going to be on the point fight? It worked out very well, at least initially on the point fight. So this is in theory where Kinessa's going to have even a better time on the push. And Stigma has made great use of it, unfortunately dropping there to Ozone. And I think that's what you would say they need to do. The crossfire comes out as well, finds some damage, not any kills just as of yet. Here comes the seismic crash as well. There's a checkerboard of blue and red on the kill feed. But it's Zenith are the ones who are able to push back Nation of Power.
Jostles lands that laser beam onto 2, gets the kill onto just 1, but that's because I think Bomb King's running a little bit more HP than the 2400 the laser can actually do. So he lives with 50 HP and then dies to the seismic crash immediately after. The setup actually killed for the follow-through there. That was kind of a funny little combination of ultimates up there on the high ground, but it will hold for the time being. And now Ozone needs to be careful. His positioning here is very, very forward, and it looks like he is in position to actually be punished for that.
He was getting punished, but he does end up finding the assist there. Priz cleaning up Jay. Stigma, though, dropping then Priz as an answer back here. So 1 for 1 for both teams. 48 seconds remaining. Plenty of time for either team. Obviously, time in the favor of Nation of Power, I would say, at the moment, since they still have plenty of time. Misses a couple here is Stigma. Now you're playing a little bit closer range of a sniper. Holding down this doorway. He is going to chunk down the Inara a bit. The wall's going to get up. Just keep Stigma out and away. Here comes the Headhunter, though, but are there any targets for him to find? Not just yet. He cleans up a turret with it, and there's a little bit of damage on the back end of it, so not the most impactful, but the Dread Serpent's going to find a few, and Tay is going to get this fight started.
King Bomb came through on the low ground. The Dread Serpent came out on the high ground. I think that's really what they needed. They just needed a big, heavy CC, team fight opener to allow this Kinessa to rotate into the final corridor of Ice Mines, to get out into the open field and kind of feel the wind beneath her wings, so to speak. 0 seconds on the clock as we head into the overtime. Ozone rolls into certain doom. They're still doing a good job keeping this Kinessa corralled. They're so concerned with it.
Poison, though, is going to be the one who takes the reins on this one. He finds himself 3 in the fight, potentially 4 with Inara falling, but you got to watch out. The respawns are coming in. But unfortunately, they're a little bit staggered. Zenith actually in an okay spot to potentially stall this one out. The Dome Shield's going to do just that at the moment, so Nation of Power have to back off. Team Zenith actually find themselves a successful defense. I think that was more of a matter of the game, or the fight, that final team fight going on just a little bit too long. The respawns were able to come out from Zenith. And unfortunately not in their favor.
Yeah, it can be tough for sure. Using Dome Shield is gonna certainly hurt them. They don't have the best kind of suite of ultimates, I feel like, to just go ahead and get aggressive. That Seismic Crash time and space combination is gonna be a big one for them. And then Dome Shield, I don't know how they're planning on using it. Like I said, Diggy managed to use it to get extremely aggressive and sort of force that what was a Victor, now it's a Kinessa. I think the idea is the same, though. Get her out of that high ground hallway. Force the corridor to be under your team's control with a, frankly, out of character aggressive play for Barrack. He's not necessarily the most aggro front line, but Diggy showed us that you can't get too fixated on what a character has been and focus on what the character could be.
So on morale boost, what was the second item there on the side of Stigma?
Life rip.
Interesting life rip coming out from them as well. So going the yellow and green route here for Stigma. Maybe not the weirdest at the moment, though. He's just trying to get those headhunters up and charged, and he pops it early on in this game as well. Stigma and Tay adding for a couple on their side. Zenith, despite an early lead here on the point, are now on the back foot. Some ultimates, the Headhunter, the Immortal. The King Bomb was used late in the last game as well.
Yeah,
so Nation of Power, this is what we saw at the end of the first round. Nation of Power with just a couple picks and enough of a zone to keep Zenith away.
And that's usually the way Ice Mines is going to go there. Ozone gets taken out, and that'll probably do it. Very hard to siege this point back up. Take it 4v5. Forget about it. 87, 90%. Crossfire doing a ton of damage to Khan. I don't think Kinessa's really in a position to defend this super effectively. 1-for-1, but the fear is good. I think onto at least 2, and that opens up just a small window for Stigma to get aggressive. Misses that shot there, but he's slowing people down. Even if he loses this duel with Ozone, which he will, slowed him down from getting back in there and having a hand in that fight.
The aggressive teleporter to get out and around the corner buys just enough time for Nation of Power. So Nick, now we've seen the Kinessa for 3 points. How are you feeling about its impact so far here?
I think it's if they leave it unchecked, it's going to continue to kind of do what it does. Overpower is looking to throw Cassie off here. I want to see it in the end, though. We never really got to see Stigma break into that final power bowl, so to speak, on Ice Mines. That's a nice couple of kills there from Tay, but I want to see him try and get this Kinessa all the way. The amount of effort that Zenith were putting into taking out this Kinessa in this like interim period between the point and the conversion sort of area, that's the type of pressure I think they need to see on the point fight. I don't think this Kinessa should be as comfortable as she has been on these points, to where she's feeling good enough to aggressively transport out and around corners like she has been.
I think her mind there picked up one of the kills for her, or for him, I guess. Stigma doing a good job in that. The morale boost. The Headhunter's up now for the second time in a small amount of time, and pretty much each shot, it looks like it's adding 10%. Yeah, it's about 10, 15% to his meter every time he's hitting a shot in general. Maybe 9, 10%. I guess it depends, but that's going to be very quickly charging.
Yeah, we can take a look at that loadout. I think she's running True Grit because she's healing a ton. So max True Grit is giving her 500 HP plus the life rip for another 120. It's a potential almost half her damn HP's coming back with every fully charged shot that hits. Marked out, though, in a rough spot. But again, distracting so many people. Wants to plow through this barricade.
Yeah, and right there, Stigma was so close to death, and he hits one shot and essentially was back to like 75% health. That's allowing him to play a little bit more aggressive. Unfortunately, the crossfire is going to be too much damage to deal with. Just a 1-for-1 here, both teams. Zenith, though, on the back foot. Nation of Power lose a couple as well. And this is where we saw the payload stalled out last time. Nation of Power with a great team fight that lasted just a little too long. Zenith able to answer back, enough kills. The Tyra doing some damage as well. 100% here on the Overpower. It's the only ultimate up and available in this game. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to use that or just go into this next point fight with it. They're just going to accept the defense. They're confident with their point fight. But it looks like Zenith are kind of playing this map the way they would have hoped to. I mean, you go to Ice Mines. If you're trying to slow it down, you essentially say, okay, we might lose these point fights, but we'll be able to find the defense. And it's working in Zenith's favor, at least at the moment.
Chunking away is Poison. And he's played kind of like a low ground thing. Sort of like that angle almost the whole time. And this is the round. I think if it's going to change, that it does change. Team Zenith need to figure out a way to put some pressure on this Kinessa at the start of these point fights. And Poison might be the guy that needs to be there to help slow it down just with sheer damage. I think, you know, Fernando's is fine to throw up a shield. Tay maybe uses an overpower, but I feel like some hard peel is going to be needed this time. I don't know if they're going to let Stigma do what he's been doing this time around.
Well, he's fully morale boosted.
Out of his mind.
You imagine a couple shots here. Let's see, 62%. Once he hits one of these shots, you'll be able to see how much it, so 68. So yeah, I mean, around the same. 70% though, so the Headhunter is really what he's aiming for here. The Overpower is going to finally come out. The damage is not there on it, unable to damage him. Priz, excuse me, is going to end up dropping anyway.
Just throw her off. It's right there.
Right.
You know, no reason to really wait for it. Failure to find pressure again, though. Stigma makes another free rotation. Barrick finds a nice little kill, though. Take Poison down with his trouble. I think now you can, yeah, just take this hallway. This is yours.
Yep.
Go in here.
It's your hallway to take. It's going to happen that way. The bowling ball is going to keep Barrick shielded up at the moment. But
One
time and time again, nice shot there from Stigma. No chance for Ozone. You can't run into that and expect to live. That's half health chunk there. Through time and space comes out, goes a little bit wide, and Stigma's just continuing his tear, and he's on the low ground this time. He's okay to take this fight from down here. He realizes he's going to be able to do damage. That's a nice Dread Serpent as well, sending a few Team Zenith members running, and Nation of Power find themselves their 3rd point.
Stigma does a good job, man. Just kind of rotating around, being a little bit elusive. I don't know. They can't figure it out. They can't figure out how to put pressure on this. Overpower is definitely a really tough thing to push into as well. You would have to commit so much and then just be thrown off the map. It's a tough spot to be put in, and I don't see it changing. I don't really see a super clear answer. Maybe you try and win through the low ground where Kinessa doesn't really have as much of a line of sight. And to have one, she would have to rotate almost off of that, like to the edge of the windowsill, you know what I mean? To be able to look down her own hallway. Maybe that's the way they have to go about this. But this is the first. I've cast this game for 3 years. I think this is the first Kinessa on Ice Ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just thinking my way through with you guys.
I mean, when you got a guy like Stigma on it, seemingly can make it work on any map. Certainly doing so here on Ice Mines as well. The 9 streak on the Kinessa Vitae as well. Watch out for him on this con. He's one of the more skilled frontliners we have here in the PML. The Seismic Crash is going to come in. It's going to stun up Poison, but the return damage instead is going back onto Cassie, onto Ozone, and he might fall down there on the back end. Not just yet. The crit coming out. Here comes the Headhunter. That quickly charging ultimate here for Stigma. Down goes Priz, and that's a big damage dealer.
Wait,
Poison cleans up 1 as well.
How did he kill Priz?
Maybe one of his.
Where was Priz?
I think he was down low. Maybe one of his mines just kind of one-tapped him there towards the end. But an unstoppable Stigma is going to push Nation of Power to a clean Ice Mines win. 3-0 here for them today, and they just, I mean, honestly, this looked like the better team.
Stigma is just the boy who could, right? They said he couldn't do it on Bright Mars. They said he couldn't do it on Ice Mines.
Kinessa on Jag Falls.
He makes it happen, man. I think that's been done once before, but Stigma's blazing a trail with this character and looking damn good doing it.
Nation of Power, they're looking good as well. 3-0 here for them. Let's send it back to the desk to break down set number 3.
I don't know about Kinessa on Jag Falls. I know I've seen Strix on Jag Falls because it was the player was named Valentine.
Yeah.
And I wondered where he went for a long time. It became Ninum.
Oh, wow.
That was Ninum from Kenga.
Wow.
Like, that's who that player was. So
that guy.
We've had it come around. But
that was like the guy that would just get protected, like protect the president. And you can see
covered
why.
him, much like Stigma was covered pretty much this entire game. I don't think anyone.
Like white on rice.
I've said that on cast before. I felt bad about it.
Nah, man.
There's certain phrases that
that's classic phrase right there.
When I realized I picked up some of my dad's saying.
Well, that's a dad saying.
But
that's
I don't
the older saying.
Say it with as thick of a southern accent as
like white on rice.
So
you don't say it like that, like at dinner?
No, not all. Only sometimes.
You know, Stigma did well on this, to be honest. He did well, and it was not an easy task, but their actual lineup helped because it was very hard to get through any of these corridors, and the way Poison could pressure out with the BK, they had a lot of room just created for Stigma. And you know what I really want to appreciate, though, is Team Zenith. And I'm going to use this analogy. They played like a team with something to lose. And I think that's important because they didn't come out and take control of this matchup. They clearly were, you know, the ones on the back foot, but they didn't give up, and they continued to hold on, and they continued to fight for every inch until it was taken from them. What I think they need to look forward is that what Nation of Power do, Nation of Power, they're a team who's looking to win. They're looking to prove themselves. They've got something to grab, and that is obviously going to be heading towards the end of their journey when it comes to LAN, and if they can get there. But I think Zenith did a really important thing, which is sometimes we will see teams who are at the 3-0 on an Ice Mines and they just give up. And that was not the energy of Zenith. They are fighting tooth and nail for every inch. And that's what ends up making you better players.
And there were, I mean, very good moments for them to be able to find the defense, being able to kind of figure out what was wrong. But when it came down to it, the point fight, there was one serious issue, and that serious issue comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that's that they just didn't have anyone who could pressure out that Kinessa. And Stigma on Kinessa looks really good pretty much anywhere
Sometimes.
you put it, at least from what I've seen.
Sometimes.
Well, I think I've seen it on Warder's Gate, I've seen it on Ice Mines, I've seen it on Bright Marsh, probably some other map in there. Most of the time it's been pretty good. Either way, that's going to be another 3-0 and another win on the board there for Nation of Power. We have one more. Ferocity going up against Bork coming up right after this. But before we get there, we're going to take a quick break.
Brought to you by Skillshot, Hi-Res Studios, Evil Mojo, INAP, SteelSeries, Respawn.